Hello, this is Knox Street Studios, Tech Bridge, where we together increase our technical know-how and productivity. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on Python, and we're going to focus on working in the terminal, and then we'll flip over right at the end and look at, we'll do some of the same things we did in the terminal in the program. The reason why we're working in the terminal is because the terminal is where you can test ideas. Because we are all going to have bugs and stick points because something that we wrote isn't quite right. There are times when you can use the terminal to figure out what's happening and then take it back into kind of the more long form. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's get right to it. All right, so what you see in front of you is the terminal. How you got there is a couple of things. You can click on your launch pad and then click on terminal. You find it in your list. Mine's right here, click on terminal. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is, of course, you can go up to the search bar, type in terminal. The other thing that I recommend is tagging it and putting it and docking it into your bar down at the bottom. So that way you can get to it fairly quickly. At any rate, let's bring it back up. One other thing, with the terminal, if you go into preferences, one of the things that you can do is you can make it bigger or small. You can make the text bigger. You can do quite a bit of kind of virtual appearance type thing. And sometimes, and I did that, I made this a little bit bigger than what I normally work with. So you can maybe get a sense of what's happening. All right, while at the terminal, last week we talked about installing Python. So because I have an older version of Python, let's type it, Python. And for me, because my computer is old, I have a version of Python 2.7.15 on this computer, all right? So that's not the one that we necessarily want to use. So let's type exit, and let's type Python 3. And when I type Python 3, then you notice Python 3.7.8 pops up. All right, so that's the one you want to be aware of. And especially when you download other versions, those are major forks in the versions. So you just want to be aware of that. All right, so the focus today is to play around in the terminal and do a couple of things. One of the things that we want to do is we want to learn how to add. I know, sounds simple, right? But so let's say 3 plus 3. And so what it's going to do is it's just going to give you that number, 9 minus 3. It's going to give you that number. It responds directly in the terminal, okay? So you can do numbers, or I guess we'll do multiplication too. All right, 3 times 8 gives you 24. Divide. 10. I think it's the wrong one. I think it's that one. 2. Okay. Now notice when you did divide, it gave you, those were your, what do you call them? Integer numbers so far. 6, 6, 24 answers. 10 divided by 2 gave you a float. And so it's, just a decimal version of the number. And Python under the hood is doing a different calculation. So there is a difference, and you can get very specific with the numbers. My job today is not to necessarily get into any type of detail, but to say that these are some of the things that you can do. The other thing I will mention, not only can you do addition, subtraction, multiplication, but you also can deal with what we call strings, integers and strings. And that's really all I wanted to talk about today. But before I talk about strings, there's an important concept that I need to mention to you, and that I know makes me stumble sometimes. This is great if you just want a really glorified calculator. But what you really want to do is you want to be able to take these answers and store them. And so in order to do that, we have things called variables. A variable, the variable that I'm naming here is number, equals 3 plus 3. All right. So if you notice, I typed in the variable, I gave it an equal sign, and then I gave it a value. So now if I just type in number, it's going to spit out the value. Now this is important. This is important because it's with the values, these containers, that we actually start to manipulate programs, apps, just about everything that you see happening on the web, cloud, AI. It's based on being able to store this information in a variable and being able to call it back up, right? That little act that we just did is you will see replicated over and over and over again in computer science. Okay. Now, you also can store words. So last time I pulled up an old program, and I will handwrite it here. And this time, as opposed to working with numbers, we'll do strings. And so it'll be first name equals last name equals my last name, which is Brown. And then what we want to do is we want to be able to pull that data out. So I have two variables. The variable name, first name. The actual value in it is my first name, Richard. Last name, variable, second variable. The value in it is Brown. And now we want to print that out. And it's print, comma, first name. I want to put a space in there. No, I don't. Last name. All right. So all I did is I typed in print, parentheses, first name, last name. All right. And it printed that out. Now, another thing you can do is, in order to make it look like the other program, print hello, comma, first name, last name. All right. And so what it should print is hello, Richard Brown. All right. So now, I want to exit. So type in exit and close. That means that we're calling a function. It's a specific function, pre-written function, and there are plenty of those. And when you do that, that will exit out of, if you notice, Python, once it started, it gave you those three, I think you call them chevrons, to signify that you're actually in Python. Once I typed in the specific function exit, close, open and close parentheses, you are now out. All right. So let's go over to, this Python thing that I typed up a while back. And what you see is that it is that very thing that we just wrote, right? And so the name of it is Python PyChan1. All right. Okay. So in order to get to that, we need to be able to, and it's really these lines with just a little bit of nomenclature that I added in. All right, so I got to get to documents because I'm not in documents. Change directory to documents. You have to make sure you're in the folder that has the document. When it goes to execute it, if it's not in the same folder, it won't be able to execute it. So, all right, Python 3. So now what I'm doing is from the terminal, I'm typing in, hey, which program I'm going to use, Python, the 2.7 or the 3, Python 3, and then the name of the program, pychan1.py. And that's going to call up and run the program that I have saved using Atom. Oh, now I hard coded it. This one, my name will not be Richard Brown. What should my name be? Tom. Tom, that's my first name, and last name will be Baker. And so this program took input from the user, and I was able, it asked me, what was your first name? I gave it a variable, Tom, last name, and then it printed out. So it's very similar, but just a little bit more complexity. All right, that's all I wanted to cover today, but it's important, simple, but important. And this is something that we will be building on and seeing over and over and over again as it relates to programming, computer science, things of that nature. Thanks so much for tuning in. Send me your thoughts, the action, and the last thing I'll say, you have to code this yourself. You've got to feel it in your fingers, because we all make mistakes. Lord knows I still make quite a bit of mistakes. The only way to really get this is to code it. So the action item for today is to code the thing. All right. Let me know how it goes. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.